On this episode of Locked On Angels, it's Fanmail Friday, and you asked what miracle needs to happen in order for the Angels to make the playoffs. I'm laughing because you said miracle, and that feels accurate. We're going to answer that question and so much more. I'm Mike. That's John. We're the Super Halo Bros, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. Hit that thumbs up and subscription button on YouTube. And while you're here, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and enter the promo code Locked On Golf to receive 20% off your order. Order 5 Hour Energy Transfusion flavored drinks and order them today. And you can come bowling with us with Logan O'Hoppe, the hero of the last game against the Dodgers. And we're going to bowl with him on Saturday or Sunday, September 7th from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in Fountain Valley. We're raising money for the YMCA of Orange County. It's the Logan O'Hoppe All-Star Bowl. Get your tickets by clicking the link in the episode description and use the promo code Halo Bros. Can't wait to bowl with you. Can't wait to hang out with our buddy, Logan O'Hoppe. Going to be a blast. We'll see you there.
Mike, my hair feels luxurious today because it's so salty. It's salty in the air because there's a lot of salty Dodger fans from yesterday's show. So I feel luxurious. Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, aka the Super Halo Bros. My name is John. That's my brother Mike.
Well, you know the Angels only won because C.B. Buckner is a bad umpire. That's the only reason why they won.
Only reason.
Hey, my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we've been fans of the Angels our whole entire lives. It's our 4th season talking Angels baseball with you here on Locked On Angels, Monday through Friday, every single weekday. On today's show, it is a Fan Mail Friday. Do the Halos need a miracle? And then who's in charge here? That's never a good thing to hear. And then we'll get into some of your questions about potential roster moves. Mike, let's start it out with the Halos needing a miracle. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's start with Izzy Cruz from Instagram asking this question. What miracle needs to happen to make the playoffs? In all honesty, John, you want to take a shot at this one?
I can certainly take a shot at this one. Look, I was looking at it, and I know inevitably everybody's going to talk about the Tigers last year. And on August 15th, they were 4 games under 500, Mike.
Wow.
And the Angels are 3 games under 500. The Tigers ended up going 17-11 in August.
Okay.
Right now, the Angels are 6-6. So they would have to go 11-5 to even match what the Tigers did last year. But here's the thing. You have said all season long, win series, not win streaks.
Mm-hmm.
And often we live and die by what the Angels do night after night. Naturally, we're Angels fans. We recap every game, right? We have Gavin afterwards. Doesn't waste your time. Has a great postcast live on the YouTube channel after every game. If you haven't checked that out, please do that. And then you and I give our takeaways from each game. So in a sense, we're kind of built to live and die by every game just based on what we do here on Locked On Angels. But you know what I noticed about the Tigers the rest of the way? They won 2 here. They lost 1 there. Then they would win like 4 in a row, and then they lose 1 or 2, but then they'd win 3 in a row, and then they lose 1, and then they'd win 4 in a row, right? So they didn't necessarily have this steamroll to the end of the season where they're sweeping everybody and doing this and that. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good sweep. In fact, did we just have one?
Yeah.
Not that long ago. Okay.
Yeah, it was against the who's the team that won the World Series last year?
The Clippers? Is that who it was?
Close. Dodgers. It has an S in there.
Yes,
Dodgers.
yes.
Yeah.
I knew there was an S though. But listen, it's great to have sweeps because they certainly help you in the win department, and it makes up for any series you might drop later on. Mike, the Angels got to win series.
Yeah.
And that's really what needs to happen in order to make the playoffs. In terms of miracles, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Last year, and I'll speak from experience, I drafted first baseman Spencer Torkelson in fantasy baseball. he got off to a terrible start. In fact, he got demoted to AAA, Mike.
He did. Yep.
And then the Tigers brought him back towards the end of the season, and he started doing the things that they expected Spencer Torkelson to do. Now, he didn't end up with a great back of the baseball card for 2024, but the last few months there, he was the Spencer Torkelson that they all expected him to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I bring that up because everybody has to click. Logan O'Hoppy's got to come through the way that he did on Wednesday night. And he's got to have, more often than not, a 1-for-3 day with a walk, a 2-for-4 day, right? Maybe a home run here and there. He's got to come around. Mike Trout has to come around. He's got to put the ball in play, and he can't be taking strikes, looking when they're right there in the strike zone. He's got to swing the bat. Something about Trout right now, just not confident, not swinging the bat, trying to work a walk. If he's going to continue to do that, he doesn't belong in the 3-hole, and I would like to see a change there as well. As for the others, Zach Neto, I think he's playing at Zach Neto level.
Mm-hmm.
Nolan Shawwell, I think he's playing at Nolan Shawwell level. We've had a great second half from Luis Rengifo. Yoan Moncada is healthy and continues to be a threat. I know that it's frustrating to not see Christian Moore start, but I have enjoyed the fact that when Moncada comes up in the order, but there's a lefty on the mound, he can't swing it right now, they bring in Christian Moore, and they did that halfway through the game on Wednesday night. So going back to the original question from Izzy Cruz, what miracles need to happen? They have to have a winning month. They need to go at least 11-5 in order to match what the Tigers did last year. And let's not live and die by one loss here, because if they're picking up 2 and 3 along the way, I think that's a really great thing. Mike, how about Ravenclaw dropout on Instagram? Will we ever get back to the playoffs with Artie as the owner? Why don't you take this one?
It will happen. I'm confident it will happen. And it's going to be despite Artie. It's not going to be because of Artie. And what I mean by that is we are close to 500 this season, not because of Artie Moreno, but because of the draft picks and rushing people to the major league level and not developing them like people talk about. Zach Neto, Nolan Shawwell, all the people you mentioned, these are the guys that are going to get us there. And I think that if they make some moves for next year, the moves are going to be in-house moves that will be significant. I don't doubt that they'll probably try to go out and get another arm, because Kyle Hendricks and Tyler Anderson will not be in this rotation next year. They're free agents at the end of the year. And of course, Rengifo won't be here. Moncada won't be here. I'm thinking that we're going to see a lot of maybe in-house moves, and those guys are going to have to perform. The reason why I believe that we will get back to the playoffs with Artie as the owner, maybe not in 2026, although I think there could be a potential there, is because we have a really good pitching rotation on the way. We have a lot of really young pitchers that I think are going to be solid. Are they going to be aces and blow you away? Probably not, right? Now, I'm up for being wrong. I think maybe George Clausen might be that guy, right? TGA might be that guy. But I think if we get a bit more consistent starting pitching, we have a bullpen that can help us to get from the 6th inning to the 9th inning. I think that there's a good potential that this team could be a team that makes the playoffs in 26, maybe 27, but it won't be because Artie went out and got this person and that ace and that third baseman and all of those things. It will be because somebody like a Bryce Teodosio suddenly becomes really, really good. And this isn't the first time that we've seen this. Artie rode the decisions that were made by Bill Stoneman and those that drafted with the Disney organization when he purchased this team. And one of the things that we found out was that there were hidden gems with this team, like Reggie Willett. He was somebody that saved this team in the late 2000s because there were injuries, and he came up, left-handed bat, hit 290, didn't hit any bombs, but was somebody that played a great left field. He caused chaos on the bases. That was a gift, and it wasn't expected. I think that we're going to see a lot more of that over the next 2 seasons with this Halos team. There'll be some players we're like, yay, this guy's fantastic. Caden Dana, we expected this. But then I think there's going to be a lot of Bryce Teodosios that are going to fit in well with the Netos, the Shawwells, and the O'Hoppys. And the reason why I believe that is because we do have some solid pieces that anchor down this offense and defense, even with Joe Adell and even with Taylor Ward, and they are able to now piece in some of these other players that don't have to be the guy, but they can be a guy and help this team get really far. So the answer is, yeah, I think we will. I don't know when we will. I think I could see us maybe next year, especially if they finish 500 this year, maybe 2027. I think it'll happen, but it won't happen because Artie Moreno made it happen.
Right. And I think you kind of answered Brody Weidl's question on Instagram. I'm not really asking for hope, but is there something to actually be excited for? Yeah, I think it's a 500 season or a winning season. It's getting close to 500. It's turning around the narrative around the Angels and saying, hey, look, there's something to be excited about in Anaheim because these guys know what they're capable of after this season. And you look at the young core that they're working to build, and they're still adding to that. Now that guys like Neto and Joe Adell and Sean Will all have the experience of this kind of season and the kind of play that they saw against the Dodgers, where I think you mentioned it the other night or the other day, it was a playoff atmosphere, right? And that certainly is something that they can benefit from. Dodger Oso on Instagram is somebody I like to go back and forth with. Yeah. He's a Dodgers fan I actually like because he knows how to rap. He knows how to play the game, right? Yeah. Between fan bases. He said, would you rather miss the playoffs or get pounded by the Dodgers in the World Series? Well, to be fair, he sent this last week before this Dodgers series, but I'll take getting to the World Series and getting spanked anytime. Like, if the team makes it to the World Series, that means they were pretty darn good. And then if it's 4 and out, that's fine with me. But the thing that kind of was demonstrated over this series with the Dodgers is that when you have a 3-game set, 5-game set, 7-game set, anything can happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I will take getting beaten by the Dodgers in the World Series if I only have to interact with Dodger Oso, because right. I will not be able to live my life normally if the Angels made it to the World Series and got crushed by the Dodgers based off of where I live and the people that I know and in my real life job. Like, it just wouldn't go well for me. I would have to quit and go into witness protection program, because it would be awful, John. It would really be awful.
Absolutely. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Thanks for participating in Fan Mail Friday. Coming up, who's in charge? What's going to happen with Perry Minasian? What are we going to do about the managerial situation? You guys had some great questions about that. Mike and I will share our fan-guided wisdom in just a minute.
Time to fuel up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Flavors like grape, ginger, lime are some of the most favorite flavors of our everydayers. And whether you're out on the golf course or you just need a little extra push to power through the day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the flavor that you love and gives you the energy that you need. You can try the grape, ginger, lime flavor for 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It's perfect for a busy lifestyle, and it doesn't waste your time. It's actually really good, and it amps you up, have even more fun during the day. Now, go to 5hourenergy.com today and use our promo code LOCKEDONGolf. You're going to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, so be aware of that. Next time you're meeting up with friends and you need an energizing boost to power through the day, order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy Shots today.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Got a couple of questions about who's in charge, and regarding Perry Minasian, regarding Ron Washington, Ray Montgomery, what's going to happen with all of that. So let's take it to Scott Chapman on Twitter, who said, is Perry done? There's no way they will let him hire another manager at the end of the season. Or are they going to keep Perry and Ray? Mike, what do you think?
I think they're going to keep Perry, and I think they're going to keep Ray. I think they're going to keep Perry because if they're at 500 or near 500, it's a huge improvement year over year, and Artie's going to see that. Also, it looks like they're making money. They're having people come to the stadium, and this team is intriguing, and it's August, and people are still talking about this team. Artie's going to notice that. John Carpino's going to notice that. So I think Perry's going to make it through next season. He has a year on his contract still. I could see maybe an option being added to that to where he could go through 2027. But I do think when it comes to the managerial position that it probably will be more than likely Ray Montgomery. I don't know if they'll go and get anybody else. And I wonder if that was kind of the game plan all along. Ray's name has come up multiple times when the Angels have been looking for managers, and he hasn't been the guy that they've selected. And I think a part of the reason why is because he needed some work. He needed some experience. He needed to learn. And I think this is an opportunity for him to get all of that. Do I agree with that? I'm not a huge fan of Ray Montgomery. There have been moments where I've been like, okay, that's a good decision. Like, I've seen some sacrifice bunts. I've seen some decision-making in those categories. Now, was it him making the call and them following through? It seems like that, but there hasn't been too much discussion about that. The one thing that I don't like is I don't see the chaos on the bases that the Angels said that they were going to cause. Bo Porter said, we're going to cause chaos by stealing bags. Part of that might be who's actually on this team, and they're not running that much, which is why I love Bryce Teodosio. And I know I pushed back on his attempted steal of third base in that last game against the Dodgers. And everydayers were saying, no, it's a good move. We want to cause chaos. And after some thought, I 100% agree with you. I think that we need somebody on the base paths that can do that. Zach Neto's another guy that can do that. I think having maybe one more to do that would be great. And so I would love to see Ray Montgomery, if he's going to manage, have the leash taken off a little bit and have him be somebody that stirs this team up. He just doesn't seem like a fire starter. And I've said for a really long time, we need somebody that can really start the fire and inspire these guys. A Darren Erstad type, somebody that is a little bit spitfire, Jim Harbaugh from football, right? I think that that's going to be a guy that can really get this team over the playoff edge and possibly successful in the playoffs. Ray Montgomery just doesn't seem like he's that type of manager that will be able to do that.
You know, you made an interesting point about the fact that the Angels haven't really been causing chaos on the base paths. And that's something they really did a lot in 2024 when Ron Washington took over. Mike, to be fair, even when Ron Washington was part of this team, you didn't see a lot of the bunting that you would expect to see in certain moments.
True.
You didn't see a lot of attempted stolen bases when you might expect to see that, right? Joe Adell, Zach Neto, all those guys ran a ton last year. And it's interesting to me that something changed over the offseason. And with Ron Washington, I don't know. I don't mean to make a bad pun here, but like, because of his health issues, maybe his heart wasn't in it. I don't know if that was a distraction. Well, what do you think?
I think health has a lot to do with this because Joe Adell was hurt last year, right?
Yeah.
And he was hurt at the start of the year. Luis Rengifo was hurt at the start of the year. Mike Trout, of course, can't run because they're trying to be really cautious with him. So I wonder, John, if a lot of the decision-making on the base pass, especially when it comes to stealing, has to do with let's keep this team healthy and let's not have any more wear and tear than they already get by playing defense and hitting at the plate. And so maybe that has adjusted the strategy a bit. I mean, let's be honest, this is the longest Mike Trout has played in a really long time in consecutive months, even though he was out for a bit. And then Joe Adell hasn't been hurt. He's been able to be in there. Zach Neto has been able to be in there. He had the shoulder issue, right? Learning how to slide differently. So maybe health really does factor into this, not necessarily Wash's health, but the health of the players.
Yeah, that's a good point because you mentioned it. Rengifo was another guy stealing a ton of bags last season. Now he had a biceps injury, but it was earlier this year that he had, some leg issues going on, quad strain and that sort of thing. Kind of leads into our next question from Karsten on Twitter. He said, should we bring back Ron Washington next year? I kind of want him back since I don't have a lot of trust in Montgomery, but we would be in a pickle if Wash's health declines again mid-season, or do we go for somebody completely new? I'm going to give my thoughts and I'll turn it over to you. I think with this 1 year left on Perry Manassian's contract, I think it's a bad idea for them to allow Perry to hire somebody brand new whose contract carries over into the next season, and Perry Manassian might not be here, if that makes sense. It's kind of like what happened between Billy Epler, Joe Madden, and Perry Manassian. Then we'll be right back to where we were, where there's a disconnect between the front office and the dugout, and especially with the manager on how to handle things, on how to run things, that sort of situation. The thing about Ron Washington, and even Ray Montgomery by extension, is Perry hired both of those guys. He finally got to hire his manager, which was Ron Washington, And Ray Montgomery has always been the bench coach through Joe Madden and Phil Nevin and Ron Washington. He's been there the whole time. And we've always said he's kind of the eyes and ears for Perry Manassian in the dugout. And you brought this up earlier with Ray Montgomery in terms of his name coming up for the Angels. But, the Astros were looking at him as well before they went with Joe Espada. So that's also an interesting wrinkle to the whole conversation. So in my opinion, Mike, do they bring back Wash next year? I don't think so. I think he's done, to be honest with you. Not that I'm wishing that he's done. I don't think for his health it's a good thing. I don't think for, the energy that it requires for this team to be a manager, it's a good thing. I just want the guy to be okay. And I don't think that being back in the dugout is the best thing for his career. It's not as if he's gone from the team, right? He's on medical leave, medical absence. But look, depending on how they finish the second half of the season, they'll probably stick with Montgomery because the through line, the messaging is, consistent between because Montgomery was already here when Wash was here, and they're sort of continuing that, but then he's also kind of doing things in his own way. He's got a quick hook for those starters. He's not necessarily giving them the Ron Washington pep talk all the time, right? And so I say all that because I think if there's going to be any consistency from this year to next year, I think it starts with Ray Montgomery. Whether we like it or not, I have to say that if we want to keep things consistent and keep the messaging consistent, keep these guys in the same kind of mindset that they're playing in right now and that carry over to next season, I think it's going to have to be Ray. But what are your thoughts on this?
There's a couple of thoughts that I have. First, I think Ron Washington, with his health, is not going to come back next year. I think the best use of Wash is found in how the Atlanta Braves fans talk about Wash and what he did for that Braves team. They're like, man, he's the missing link to this team. Yeah. And the reason is because he wasn't the manager. He was just a base coach, but he was always in their lives. Wash is a inspirational mentor. He's not a manager. He's not a CEO, right? And so what the Angels have the opportunity to do, because he's still under contract, is to unleash him as a guy who kind of rouse him up, gets him excited, right? And Ray's not going to do that. Ray seems like he's got a bit more of an analytical mind. Here's the plan. Here's the strategy. Here's how we're going to execute it. And I'm going to make sure that my managers and my coaches and my leaders are all ready to go.
He does defend his guys out there, though. He gets in the face of the umpire.
That has been great. Now, I really think that this is the world that we're going to be swimming in as fans of this team. And what I mean by that is it's going to be Perry Manassian 2 years, 3 years at the most, right? If he gets any sorts of extension, it's going to be a manager for 2 years, maybe 3 years, because I think that that's how Artie wants to do this thing. I think that his future cast, his vision is bite-size steps. It's not going to be this long-term 5-year deal, big manager, right? Like, I think he's going to go with what does this season look like? And if you listen to Perry, when he talks about things, like when Sam Blum asked him, like, hey, what's the potential for 2026? We're really focused on right now. I don't look into the future. We're going to do this, and we'll get to 26 when we get to 26. I think that we're going to be operating 1 to 2 years at a time with this team as long as Artie is here, which is why I also don't think that Perry's going anywhere, because Perry is not going to break this thing down. This team has shown the ability to win, not at the level of being over 500 or getting to the playoffs, but they've improved year over year. The players that he's brought in, the young guys that he's drafted. And if he gets let go, fired, or moves on, Artie's not going to bring in Dombrowski. He's not going to bring in a guy that's going to trade everybody to get big pieces. That's how a lot of these GMs operate. And that's how, like, AJ Preller has operated. Artie's not going to bring in somebody like that. He wants somebody that is more Florida Marlins, right? Like, he wants somebody that kind of does that. And that's what Perry brings. So I think we're going to have Perry for the next year. And I think we're going to have him for maybe another year after that. They'll extend him maybe 3 years out. And I think that we'll also have somebody like a Ray Montgomery doing the same thing, because they have shown to work really well together.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out with the management, because again, there's not really a clear answer right now. At the very least, I don't think it'll be somebody new. And that's not to say we don't want somebody new. It's just, we're trying to answer the question from the perspective of what are the Angels
Yes.
going to do? And I think that you hit the nail on the head with that mentality of taking it year by year.
We all would love to manage our money. We would all love to manage our money in an easier way. And that's why Monarch Money is your best bet to do that. Whether you're growing your savings or you're planning a big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. You'll be like Ron Washington, and Monarch Money could be like Ray Montgomery. You can be the fun guy, right? And the inspirational person. And then Monarch Money can be the one that has the strategy, it has the plan, and executes all of those things. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you can also build your wealth. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
Got some questions on future moves, potential roster moves in the short term and the long term. And we'll take it to the long term with Carlin Jeremy's question on Instagram. What realistic free agents do you think the Halos could go after in the offseason? It's a very interesting offseason because there's a lot of player options. There's a lot of guys who did like a 1-year deal. Some guys got traded, like Kyle Tucker, with 1 year left on his contract to the Cubs, and he'd be a free agent. Mike, in terms of realistic guys, I took a look at who's available next year. This is what I came up with. And obviously, as we get into the offseason, as the World Series winds down, we spend a lot of time talking about this. But if we want to just get a quick glance at this, I'd say somebody like Michael King from the Padres, starting pitcher who's a free agent. He is back on the IL, unfortunately, at this point. Dustin May, who I did not realize was going to be a free agent after this year. He just got traded from the Dodgers to the Red Sox. Finally pitched really well for them the other night. And then Willie Castro, who got traded from the Twins to the Cubs. And he's somebody who can play both the infield and the outfield. Feels like a Rengifo type. And so you might just bring back Rengifo if you're not going to go after somebody like Willie Castro. But those three guys have things in common. They're not Kyle Tucker. They're not Alex Bregman, right? They're not, who am I thinking of from the Padres, who's going to be a free agent, came over from the White Sox, right? And he's not had a great year, but at the same time, he's going to be a big time starting pitching free agent. It's not any of those.
Cease, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Dylan Cease. I kept wanting to say Chase. And so to me, these are the guys that Angels would likely go after. So when Carlin asked what realistic free agents, I'd say Michael King, Dustin May, maybe Willie Castro. You got to have some more starting pitching. And I think it would benefit them to have somebody who's been there, done that. And they're also decent pitchers too. So it'll be interesting to see where those guys land. But in terms of realistic, that's probably the ceiling for the Angels next year.
Yeah. Evan Kennard 04 on Instagram asked, do you think that we'll sell off any of the contracts like in 2023? And if so, then who do you think that it will be? John, I know that we're after the trade deadline, so a lot of the deals that they would have to make would be potentially in the offseason or at the next trade deadline. So what are your thoughts on what Evan's asking here?
Yeah, so if you remember back in 2023, when they made the moves that they did, they actually went over the luxury tax. So they sold off, essentially they released or DFA'd guys and made, the other teams pick them up to help them get to the playoffs. So obviously Giolito was one of them. A couple of the other guys that we brought over in that time were part of that as well. So they DFA'd guys with the hope that another team would pick them up and take on their salary. Because they did that, the Angels got back under the luxury tax. I don't believe that they will do that this year. And the reason why is because right now, in terms of luxury tax payroll, basically what all of the payroll adds up to being in terms of the luxury tax, it's $223 million about. And the first penalty for being over the luxury tax starts at $241 million. So they don't need to do what they did in 2023 because they're already under that number. And so they won't face any penalties if that were to happen. Mike, how about this one? Kickback Day on Instagram said, will Ward get traded in the offseason if Teodosio ends up having a solid 2025 for the rest of the season? What do you think?
I'd be surprised if they trade him. Here's why. He's going to be a cheap offensive option for the Angels.
Yeah.
He gets traded if Matthew Lugo plays out of his mind. And then I think the Angels could see him as a trade piece. But he's going to go back into arbitration. He'll probably get 10 to 15 million. I think he's at 8 million. And we were surprised at that for this season, but his numbers are strong. And if he gets MVP votes, then I think that those ARB numbers are going to go up. So I could see him being like 15 million next year. You're not going to get a player with Ward's production at 15 million in the outfield. And so I think they hang on to him. And I think that Teodosio is going to be a cherry on top. I also think that we don't want to overestimate what Bryce might be able to do. I think what we're seeing right now is in spurts is somebody that's how they need to use him. He can't be an everyday player. I think he needs to be somebody that is out there occasionally, but not every day until he can prove that he can do that. The end of the season could be that opportunity for him, but I don't think they trade Ward because Teodosio has been playing really well.
Yeah, Teodosio being a 2 times a week guy off the bench, in a game kind of guy, I think is probably his best role. And he's getting all the playing time right now just because they need him to.
Yeah.
Right. And he infuses something into this lineup, which has sorely been missing. Finally, Mike, Joel Gons 12 on Instagram said, with call-ups like Rada to AAA and draft picks coming, who's the first to be called up? September is close. So there's a couple things I want to make sure everybody's aware of. Rosters expand in September from 26 to 28. However, right now when it's 26, you can only have 13 pitchers on the roster. When it goes to 28, you can have 14 pitchers on the roster. Also, anyone on the expanded roster has to be on the 40-man roster. So it's unlikely we're going to see Rada or any of the recent draft picks because they are not on the 40-man roster. In all likelihood, it's going to be a Caden Dana, Sam Aldeguerri, maybe a Ryan Johnson gets a start here at the end of the season just to see what's up with him if he's healthy and feeling good again. It could be Chase Silseth for the bullpen. It could be Sam Bachman again for the bullpen. Matthew Lugo, Kyron Paris, they could be back up as well. And don't forget that Jorge Soler and Chris Taylor are both on the IL, so they're going to need roster spots for them as well. And most importantly, if anyone's added to the 40-man and brought up in September, it does start their service time clock, and it will count as an option year if they're sent back to the minors at the beginning of next season. If they were to stay on the 26-man roster through next year, then it wouldn't count as an option year. So they don't want to lose an option year for any of the guys just to give them a look in September. And that's going to apply to guys like Nelson Rada, Denzer Guzman, George Clausen. I think if we're going to see them, we're going to see them at some point early next season, maybe May, June at the latest. But I wouldn't expect those guys to be up in September. It's probably going to be guys that we've already seen getting a second look as the season winds down in September.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Angels on YouTube so you don't miss all of this great Halo content so you could be a smarter fan. That includes the best postcast in the business with Gavin Carlson, good for the whole family. He's live after every game right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels. Can connect with Mike and I at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Somebody tagged us in a video of Shohei Ohtani announcing his retirement after being swept by. It was inappropriate, but it was really funny. Yeah. Mike, what do we have on deck after this weekend when we come back on Monday?
Well, of course, we're going to have our takeaways from each of the game, Friday, Saturday, Sunday against the A's. And I'm hoping that our takeaways are wow instead of wow. And we'll talk about that on Monday on Locked On Angels.
Everybody's so worried about the A's. The last time the Angels faced the A's and the Dodgers back to back, they
I know.
tore through all 7
I
games.
know,
So
but we're also been fans of this team. A really long
realistic.
time.
Yeah, exactly. All right, friends. We hope you have a great weekend, and we hope you tune into the podcast after each and every game this weekend. Until Monday's show, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Monday.
Woo! Fan mail. Thanks for the questions. That was great.
Yeah, we had to do a makeup because we had so many questions last week. So thank you.